Shortly after Amazon MGM arrested control of the James Bond franchise from its previous production studio, a lot of online debate began happening regarding the future of the 007 property. Who would play James Bond and who would direct the next movie? And it was kind of shocking, the decision, because Amazon has just announced that Denis Villeneuve, of course, of Blade Runner 2049 and the Dune films, has been tapped to take James Bond onto his next mission. We're going to talk about it right here, so sit back, relax, and welcome to Studio Jake. Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Berry. Welcome to the Studio Jake vidcast, where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell to get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. Don't forget to check out my website, studiojakemedia.substack.com, where I have even more articles, and you can check those out at the link posted in the description of the video. Like I said, there was a lot of debate over where MGM would take the franchise. Now, for those of you who don't know, MGM used to be one of the top 5 in Hollywood. They were one of the biggest studios. They were bought out by Amazon, and when Amazon bought MGM, they gained access to the James Bond franchise, and the original studio behind Bond decided just to let Amazon have it all. Now, Amazon has been signaling that they are going to continue to do James Bond films in theaters, but they are going to make a sort of James Bond universe, a TV universe, if you will, on their Prime Video streaming service. Now, this brought up a lot of debate. Who should play James Bond? Who should direct the next James Bond movies? And for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to lay it out there. Tim Dalton is my favorite Bond. Timothy Dalton embodies what James Bond was in the original Ian Fleming novels. Of course, he was Bond in The Living Daylights and in License to Kill. Those were his 2 Bond films. If you would like for me to do a video breaking down why Tim Dalton is my favorite James Bond, where I go into a little bit more detail, let me know in the comment section below. I would love to do that for you. And by the way, I have seen at least one film of every single James Bond actor, and I can tell you, yes, despite all of that, Dalton is still my favorite, and he has a very storied TV history as well as a very storied filmography. So I was a little surprised to hear that MGM had announced that they have a new James Bond director, and that is Denis Villeneuve. Now, Denis Villeneuve is known for his films like Arrival. He has done films like Blade Runner 2049, and of course, most recently, the Dune films. And he is doing a third in the Dune trilogy, which will be titled Dune Messiah. I have a couple of reservations about this. A lot of people consider Denis Villeneuve a visionary director because he kind of is very good at creating spectacles. I don't think he's a visionary. To me, visionary, you have to be at the peak of your craft. Someone like Hayao Miyazaki or Christopher Nolan or someone of that caliber. And I'm sorry to say, I just don't agree that Denis Villeneuve is that caliber. He is very talented. Please note, I am not saying he is by any means a poor director, but I do have some issues with his techniques. Now, he is very slow paced. His movies feel like they are 4 hours when they're 2. Sometimes that works to their advantage, and other times it doesn't. For instance, Arrival. I love that film. I think it's his best film outside of the Dune movies. It is very smart. It is contemplative. It is methodical, and it has a good range. It works really well with Villeneuve's style. Now, on the flip side, Blade Runner 2049 was a neo-noir cyberpunk story, and it was a sequel to, of course, Blade Runner starring Harrison Ford, and this one starred Ryan Gosling, although Harrison Ford does have an appearance in the film. The problem is, Blade Runner, yes, it was methodical, and it was a little slower paced, and I have seen multiple edits of the film. My personal favorite is the final cut of Blade Runner. Well, it seemed that Denis Villeneuve wanted to put his own take on it. So he kind of way slowed it down. In fact, when I saw Blade Runner 2049 in theaters, there's a scene where Ryan Gosling's character goes to Las Vegas. Okay, well, what is Las Vegas known for? It's the City of Lights, it's the Sin City, right? Well, it's been destroyed, I guess, in some sort of post-apocalyptic thing. So he's just kind of walking through, and he walks through, and he walks through, and he walks through, and one of the longest sequences of a movie I've ever seen. And I was with some coworkers of mine who are also sort of cinephiles, and in the theater, I started doing this, like, pick up the pace, let's move on from this scene. And also, that scene wasn't very colored well. It had like this really ugly yellow hue over it that didn't really match with the tone or what was going on in the moment. So what I am saying is Villeneuve has a style, and when he sticks to it, it can be detrimental. And like I said, sometimes that works for him, like with Rival or with the Dune films. Dune is a long book. It is very methodical. It is very slow paced. It is very thoughtful in its approach to its characters and its plot. And so that blended well with Denis Villeneuve's style. I don't think James Bond will. James Bond is supposed to be a fast paced action spy thriller. And yeah, sometimes you can go deeper into the motivations of the villains or even why James Bond is taking this particular mission, why he's interested in one Bond girl versus a different one. Sure, you can have those discussions about it. But it's not meant to be like a slow paced thinker. You're supposed to keep up with what James Bond is doing. You're supposed to be on this thrill ride. And I just can't picture Denis Villeneuve's style plugged into that sort of story. I just think that it doesn't make a lot of sense. However, on the flip side, maybe Denis Villeneuve has learned his lesson. He has learned other techniques that will allow him to produce a James Bond that's more contemplative and whatnot. I just hope they bring the charm back to James Bond. One of my issues with the Daniel Craig films, now this slowly changed as Daniel Craig's tenure continued, but one of my big problems with the Daniel Craig films is they were trying to make him too much like Jason Bourne, and so he kind of lacked that charm that is seen in all of the actors who have played James Bond. And I hope that Denis Villeneuve will learn that and that he will develop skills that allow him to direct a movie of that kind, because I don't want a slow-paced, humorless James Bond. I hope that Villeneuve will restore the charm and not replace him with a character who's a different orientation or a different ethnicity. I hope that they bring us back to the traditional James Bond. Henry Cavill is rumored to be taking on the role because he has signed a multi-projects deal with Amazon MGM. I hope that's the case. If it's Henry Cavill, I'm there. My butt is in that cinema seat day one. I would love to see Henry Cavill as James Bond. The problem with that is a lot of his tryout films, because all of these actors, with the exception of George Lazenby, had sort of tryout James Bond movies, even Sean Connery. But Henry Cavill's, they haven't been received very well. Like Argyle, those movies haven't been received very well, so I'm not sure if he'll actually get it. There are rumors that, yes, they want to swap his ethnicity, which I think is totally bogus. I'm tired of that. We've seen that enough. Create original characters of those ethnicities. Stop trying to give them sloppy seconds of other ethnicities. That is so dumb, and quite frankly, I think it's bigoted of Hollywood when they do stuff like that. Let them have original characters. I think that is great. Like what they did in James Bond No Time to Die. They introduced another MI6 who was a woman of color, and they made her her own original character. I think that that works great. Do that. You know, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, neither here nor there. But what do you think? Do you think Denis Villeneuve is going to do a good job as James Bond? Is there a director that you would have preferred? Also, let me know in the comments. Do you think I should do a video on who I think should have directed the next James Bond film? I would love to get into that with you as well. But as always, it's all a matter of opinion. This would just be my opinion. I'm not trying to speak for all James Bond fans. Please don't get it twisted. This is just me talking into my microphone. And I have to say, I'm a little hesitant about Denis Villeneuve, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. If you liked that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment on what you think, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. If you want to support me in the work that I do, head on over to my website, StudioJakemedia.substack.com, where you can subscribe at several different tiers, and different tiers unlock different perks, including being able to choose the topic for the website as well as here on the vidcast. So thank you in advance to whoever signs up. At that same website, there's a conveniently titled Buy My Books section. From there, you can purchase one or all 4 of my novels. They're all available on Amazon, so if you pick one or all of them up, leave me a 5-star review. It really helps out small indie creators like myself. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time, right here on Studio Jake.
'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCH, country limit. I don't need a guide, follow lights, take me where I want to visit. Are you alive? Or just breathing? 'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCH, country limit. I don't need a guide, follow lights, take me where...
I'll have a vodka martini, shaken, not stirred.